This is things I wish I could say in Sunday school. I want to share some thoughts and ideas that are different than what we usually hear. My goal is to be really honest rather than inherently faith-promoting. I hope these ideas may spark some interesting discussions with your friends, families, or classes. Please enjoy. This is a lesson for July 8th through 14th, Alma chapters 23 through 29. Today's topics are fanaticism, death and conversion, and hardened hearts. Reading through the material for this week, I was really struck by all the fanaticism. It feels like there's a lot of extremism on both sides. The converts of the sons of Mosiah call themselves Anti-Nephi-Lehies. They take their conversion to an extreme. They don't want to commit violence. Instead of just individually committing internally to pacifism, they chose to do the most extreme thing possible. They did a massive group covenant to never defend themselves. They buried their weapons. They took the option of defending themselves away and made it a group thing, so any attempt to defend oneself is also a betrayal of the group. It's crazy to take things so far. Another crazy thing now is that this is held up as a great example of righteousness in our lessons, instead of dangerous extremism. I'll get back to this in a minute, but I want to mention the radicalism on the opposite side too. Their king converted, changed their laws, renamed his son by the name of the converts, and placed him in line to take over. Then the king died. I'm sure it felt like their government was being taken over by religious zealots. They did their own radicalizing because now they wanted to murder the converts. I don't think a whole group becomes murderous without radicalization. Now back to the fanaticism of the Anti-Nephi-Lehies. I don't have personal experience with this, but I understand that for some people, like alcoholics, stronger methods need to be employed to enable them to live a better life. Staying sober isn't easy, and for many, it becomes a main focus of their life because it's so easy to fall back into old behaviors. Sometimes being sober can come across as a kind of fanaticism, but I get it. It's better than the alternative. I could see some of the Anti-Nephi-Lehies feeling that way, that defending themselves would take them back to a dark place they can't escape. But I don't think that it would be all of them, just a small minority. Yet, the entire group made the covenant. In the story, the converts knew that an enemy was being assembled to come against them. They had buried their weapons, and when the army came, the converts prostrated themselves on the ground and prayed while the army arrived and started slaughtering them. It says that they killed 1,005 of them before they stopped. It says more Lamanites converted than the number they had slain. Now I want to take things back to Joseph Smith. I think he really liked fanaticism. I think he wanted fanatic followers. He wanted people who were so converted and committed that they would willingly lay down their lives for the cause. That's a major takeaway from this account of the Book of Mormon. These were the best converts, the most committed. They laid down their lives for their faith. I just think it's dangerous extremism. I don't think it's noble or inherently righteous to let yourself be killed. The story we recount of this people is that they are heroes. They go straight to heaven when they die. But now when I read it, I just see a group of fanatics. They chose extreme pacifism in this case. But if converts are sold this idea that fanaticism is godly, then that fanaticism can be directed by their leader to fulfill the leader's goals in other directions as well. Fanaticism isn't godly. It's dangerous. What is godly is thinking for yourself and seeing things clearly. I feel like the church still embraces fanatics. People who go to extremes for quote-unquote righteousness are viewed favorably. People who are tempered and moderate are overlooked. The church creates fanatics like doomsday preppers and under the banner of heaven style nut jobs with its rhetoric. And plenty of fanatics are drawn to the church because its doctrine and culture appeal to fanatics. I have known several recent converts over the years who don't take long to start spouting off extremist views. In those instances, I think they are attracted to the church because fanatics find acceptance in the church. This is just something to think about over the next week. How does the church relate to fanaticism today? I also want to comment on the idea put forth in these chapters that it's okay for righteous people to be slain because they are eternally saved, and it's worth it if we get more converts out of it. net positive of saved souls, I guess. I'll read Alma chapter 24, verses 26 and 27. And it came to pass that the people of God were joined that day by more than the number who had been slain. And those who had been slain were righteous people. Therefore we have no reason to doubt but what they were saved. And there was not a wicked man slain among them, but there were more than 1,000 brought to the knowledge of the truth. Thus we see that the Lord worketh in many ways to the salvation of his people. How do you think our heavenly parents feel about this? I think they are horrified at the lives cut short. I think they would feel so sad at the cruelty and violence some of their children are inflicting upon others of their children. I think if there are some who change their heart toward God, so they treat all of God's children with kindness, then that part would be pleasing to our heavenly parents. But I also think it doesn't take away in any way the horrific atrocities their children suffered. However, the message from these verses is the ends justify the means, extremism, again. I also want to address Alma chapter 24, verse 30. And thus we can plainly discern that after a people have been once enlightened by the Spirit of God, and have had great knowledge of things pertaining to righteousness, and they have fallen away into sin and transgression, they become more hardened, and thus their state becomes worse than though they had never known these things. While you can cite some examples of this, I don't feel like this is true by and large with people that leave the church. People who leave the church often feel major betrayal from the institution and sometimes its leaders. But most people I know actually feel much more personal integrity after leaving. Many feel closer to God if they retain a belief in God. They want the church to treat people better, be more honest about its origins and its funds. They want the church to simply do better, live up closer to the ideals that it purports. I think it's the very minute exception of people that leave and then want it to burn to ashes. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Please share with family and friends. Until next time.